What's good? What's good? What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the DBL podcast where I am your host, Rock Solid. So, today we're going to jump right into it. Fellas, this is more so for the ladies. I'm going to be giving away some secrets, some things you didn't want to tell them. I'm going to tell them for you today. Ladies, if you want to know if a man is losing interest in you, I'm finna give you some trade secrets on how to understand what those things are. But before we go into this episode whatsoever, I want to make sure to understand something. One, there's a difference between reasons and excuses, right? Reasons are valid, excuses are interpreted, right? Reasons have facts behind them, excuses are left for interpretation. Okay, so understand that some of the things that I'm going to be giving out to you guys today is going to be totally up for interpretation. But I really just wanted to kind of start there, and because we've all been in situations where from a guy standpoint, where I've been in a relationship with someone, and I didn't want to be there anymore, but because I genuinely had feelings for that person and cared about him, I didn't want to hurt him, so I always tried to. Let them down easy, or try to let them be the one to do the walking away or something like that. So it's kind of it's a tricky situation for guys, because when we care about you, we don't want to hurt them, we don't want to hurt a woman. But ladies, I want to say this and say this to you: as caring and as nurturing and as loving as you are, when it comes to walking away from a relationship, you're complete trash, you're a dumpster fire. And you don't have to believe me. I'm gonna give you an example of what I mean by that. For however long you've been in a relationship, right? If you've been in a relationship for a year, about 6 months into it, you decide you don't want to be in that relationship anymore. You start planning an exit strategy. So however long you've been together, you start breaking up about the same amount of time that you've been together. So if you've been together for a year, it's going to take you about 6 months to walk away, because you're going to give it a chance to see if it's going to work. You're going to give it a chance to see if something's going to change. You're going to wait to see if you can communicate. So it takes time for you to walk away, right? For a guy, they kind of just do it a little bit differently. But let's get back to this dumpster fire we call ladies walking away from relationships. You are putting money aside. Let me show you how much thought goes into you breaking up with a man. You're putting money aside. You're planning an exit strategy. You know how much thought goes into. Today is March 10th. He's leaving out on the 7th of next month. By the 1st of April, you've already paid for a deposit on a new place. You've already paid for utilities by the 3rd. You've already paid for the movers or somebody with a U-Haul or whatever to come get your stuff out. By the time you drop him off at the airport, you head over to U-Haul, pick up the U-Haul, pick up the people that's going to help you drive the U-Haul and load up the stuff. By the time he gets on the flight, you've already put the first item in the truck. By the time he lands, you've already got half of the house packed up. Again, I'm just talking about your whole train of thought. By the time he gets ready to come home on the night, the house looks like no one has ever lived in it before. Women take everything. Guys take only what's important when they walk away from a relationship. So when ladies walk away, you guys walk away and you take everything and you leave nothing. You leave no signs. A guy will leave with everything, with nothing, and leave you with everything. He leave you with pictures. He leave you with this. Leave you with some sign that's saying he was once there. You will leave a sign that says no one has ever lived there before. Okay? But there are usually 8 go-ahead traits that will tell a woman that a man is ready to walk away from a relationship. And the biggest one, in my opinion, is he starts to make excuses when he wants to start easing his way out of that relationship. He's starting to lose interest when he starts making excuses. And like I told you before, there's a difference between reasons and excuses. Reasons can be factually checked if you need to, right? Excuses are easily interpreted. Okay? I have to go to work today. That's facts. You can call my job. You can drive me to work. You can pick me up from work. That is factual, right? Oh, I got things to do today. That's a reason. I mean, so that's an excuse. I'm letting you know that I have things to do today, but I'm not telling you those things, right? So there's a difference between reasons and excuses. Reasons can be factually checked. Okay, excuses are open for interpretation. You can do whatever it is you want. You can make it what it is, right? But normally, when you guys first get into a relationship, you guys are going here, you're going there, you're doing this, you're doing that. Everything you do kind of revolves around each other. You're talking to each other all day. You're going different places. You're doing different things. And when he's starting to lose interest in you, he starts to make excuses about why he can't do anything. And I know a lot of people's like, well, just tell me that you don't want to be with me. That's what you want to hear, right? Oh, I don't want to be with you. But then it comes with the dramatics that comes with it. Then it comes with the, I need to know this, I want to know that. How come you didn't say this sooner? How come you didn't say that earlier? It's okay for a person to lose interest in a relationship. And a lot of people don't want to believe that, but it is truly possible that who you really are at your core, ladies, it starts to show up after a while. And what we started to like and wanted to be around, the more I'm around you, the more I realize that that was just your facade. And when I start to see your facade more than I start to see you, then I start to understand that you're not the person that I want to be with anymore. But we've already been physical with each other. We've already like met each other's kids or whatever the case may be. And so it makes it a little bit more complicated. Because a lot of times, ladies, you don't understand that when you have kids or you have a family member that lives with you, we get to build a relationship with these people. So we're no longer just dating you, we're also dating them. And kids are even more trickier because you start to build a relationship. Them kids don't allow any and everybody in. And especially if you're a woman that doesn't like to bring a lot of people around your kids. And so therefore, this kid is seeing somebody for the first time, and now I'm finna be just like their dad in and out of their relationship. So it's a little more complicated. But men start to make excuses on why they want to spend time with you. So that is that biggest indicator that, in my opinion, that he's starting to lose interest in you, right? Another way is, and ladies, this is going to be a big from you. He is not responsive to his phone all the time, right? And again, we're not talking about reasons. He's at work, he's sleep, doctors. Those are reasons, right? But when a man stops answering his phone for you, and again, if he's a phone person, we're not going to go into all the scenarios, right? But we're talking about a genuine. If you had time for me 6 months ago, you should have time for me today. Things change, but outside of those things changing, when a man starts to become unresponsive to his text messages and his phone calls and stuff like that, he may simply just not be interested in chatting with you anymore. And it could be talking, and he might be talking to someone else, because a lot of times when I say that if you don't have my full attention, someone else has the rest of it. Short, sweet, straight to the point, right? But when he's not responding to your text messages anymore, when he's not responding to your phone calls anymore, this is another clear sign that he's trying to communicate with you that he just may not be interested in what you're talking about anymore, or maybe the conversation has gotten stale. So, like, say for instance with me, right? I don't need the basics from a woman, right? I'm not interested in a non-sexual relationship, right? I'm not interested in a woman that has no ambition. I'm not interested in a woman that has no drive, no push, no motivation for her next move. I'm not interested in someone that needs me to cater to their attention, right? So those are just some of the basic things that I need. But if you can't hold a conversation, if you can't articulate your words, if you struggle to have a conversation, there's a reason why I tell people that in an interview and a relationship or dating someone, they're exactly the same, because they're asking you things about you that only you would know. A lot of people struggle with this one basic question in interviews and a relationship. Tell me something about yourself. People seriously struggle with that question, right? So for somebody like me, if you don't know you, how am I supposed to get to know you? Because anything I find out about you, I'm legitimately not interested in. And so what happens is when I start to finally get to know you, I start to realize that who you showed me was a facade. And I start to lose interest in it because I'm hoping that maybe I'm mistaken. But as time goes on, I start to notice that you're not the same person that I was interested in. The conversation, if you're a dominating person in a conversation where no one else can get a word in, like those things are a turnoff for guys, because one, we don't talk a lot anyway. And then when I do decide to talk, you start taking over the conversation, or your conversation isn't worth listening to. You know, then that's when we kind of turn the corner on that conversation and really don't have a whole lot to give you as far as conversation goes. So just another clue that he may be starting to lose interest in you and what you're talking about. Another sign would be starts to become real defensive or starts to become rude to you. So this is like it should be a red flag, right? Someone that was so sweet, somebody that was so into you, somebody that was so caring about your feelings, wanted to hear what you had to say. When he starts to become real defensive, everything starts to irritate you, irritate him about you. This is that hello. I'm waving my flags. I'm trying to let you know that I am no longer interested in what you're talking about. So I'm trying to become defensive because I'm trying to push you off at a distance. I'm trying to push you away. I'm trying to keep you over there. Because if I keep letting you get close to me, then I can't walk away from you. But if I keep you at arm's length, it makes it so much easier for you to decide to walk away from me. If I start to become rude to you, I'm trying to show you some traits that you should not be interested in. Why would you want to deal with somebody that's rude to you? Why would you want to deal with somebody that don't want to talk to you or don't know how to talk to you, right? If he opened the door for you in the beginning, and then all of a sudden he's not opening the door for you, right? He's letting you walk next to the street, next to the car side, and he's walking on the inside. Things that he did before, these things can all be considered rude because he's trying to communicate with you that he's no longer interested in what are you talking about. Start throwing out insults or being sarcastic. You know, these are things that should be a big red flag to you. You know, if he starts putting the blame on you for everything, when he becomes upset, you know what I'm saying, he starts to get upset with you and, you know, starts saying things, something like, if you don't like it, then don't be with me. Right? He keeps giving you an escape. He keeps giving you a way out. So you got to understand he's trying to give you an out. He's trying to make sure that you have a way out and doing whatever it is you want to do because he's no longer interested in you. So let's see. It's with men, like I said, I know the easiest answer is just tell me. Why go through all of this? Just tell me. So when I'm interested in you, I'm trying to bring you in. I'm trying to get a hug from you from a mental standpoint. I'm trying to get a hug from you from a verbal standpoint, right? But when I can't get a mental connection with you and I can't get a verbal connection with you, my instant reaction is to kind of push you back now. I no longer want those things from you. I'm trying to get a handshake from you, like, hey, how you doing? Kick rocks and keep going. Okay? So when a man starts to be rude, these are another trait that he's trying to tell you. Okay? Another one is I'm big on questions, right? I don't want to know your favorite color. Don't want to know your favorite flower, right? I don't want to know the basic things that I can ask any geek off the street to tell me. I ask questions because I want to know things about you. And one thing about me in relationships is that I'm going to continue to ask questions. If you're in a relationship where a person is not asking questions about you, or if you're in a relationship with a guy and you can't ask him questions, this should be a red flag. This should be a sign that if nothing else, should be a caution flag. The yellow caution flag, the yellow light, like, hey, you got to make a decision. Stop or keep going. You got to make a decision. At worst case scenario, when the guy is stop asking questions or stop responding to questions to you, he is legitimately trying to tell you that I'm trying to get you that handshake. I need you to keep your distance from me because right now you and I are not having the same conversation anymore, right? Asking questions helps someone learn about who you are as a person. And for knowing, you know, like their favorite type of music and, you know, how their day was. And when you start going through the robotics, you know, people don't understand when you get into a relationship, you have to be very mindful of the robotic conversations. And what I mean by robotic conversation, hey, what you doing? Nothing. What you doing? Nothing. Where you at? I'm over here. Where you at? I'm over here. What y'all got going on today? Right? So now that we got the semantics out the way, the robotics out of the conversation, all of a sudden nothing to talk about right now. Either you guys have to do one or two things. You either have to find other things that you have in common to give you something else to talk about, or you probably need to not talk as much. But with the guy, when we get to the point where you can't ask us questions and we don't have anything to talk about with you, it's usually a red flag, that caution flag, that I'm saying that I don't have anything else to talk to you about. And normally, when you're interested in somebody, you always have something to talk about. They call you, you call them. Y'all got something to talk about, because that first year, if you're not rushing, that first year, maybe year and a half, that is literally your dating phase. I don't know why people are talking about getting married, right? That is truly your dating phase, because you're now going to see this person in the holidays. You're not going to see this person in the good times. You're going to see them in the bad times. I don't care what job you're in. There are slow periods and there are busy periods. You're going to see them in every single light. You're going to see them when the weather gets bad. You're going to see them during cold months. You're going to see them in hot months. You're going to see them in the spring. You're going to see them when it's rainy. You're going to see them in the swimming pool. You're going to see her with her hair down. You're going to see her with her hair up. You're going to see her dress up. You're going to see her dress down. You're going to see all these different things, right? So when you guys are dating, asking questions, you're trying to find out you got to ask the right questions. And we talk about that enough, so we're not going to get into that. But asking the right question. But when you can't ask any questions, or if you ask a question, they don't have any answers for you. Ladies, I'm trying to tell you, as a man, we don't have no interest in you, because I don't want you to know anything else about me. I'm trying to tell you what I know and what God loves, okay? When a man, you can't ask a man no questions, he's trying to tell you something. Okay, yellow flag. Another yellow flag, or red flag if you want to go with it, he starts to become vague and indecisive with you. Right? How do you feel about me? Oh, I like you. That's it, right? He's being vague with you, indecisive. What do you think we should do? It don't matter. Whatever you want to do. I don't care. And again, we're not talking about the people who started this way or who told you that they are this way. We're talking about the ones that were in the initial out the gate. They were all of these things that, oh man, here's what I got. They're making plans for you. They're deciding this. They're doing that. They're doing this. Then all of a sudden, they're not doing anything anymore. They're just in the relationship. Or they're just, they're really excited when they see you. And then when you're gone, they can care less, right? We're talking about those kind of guys. We're talking about those things. He's trying to give you some clues. Right? And for you ones that are tuning in late, I'm trying to tell you, yes, I know you think that a guy should just tell you that. But again, no guy that I know, right? And I don't know every man, but no guy I know wants to see that hurt, that pain on your face and be the cause of it. Not one that I know want to be that cause of it. So it's not as easy or as simple as this or that. Okay. But being indecisive like this may be one of the most obvious signs that he's losing interest with you, but it's still a good indicator that you can, so that you can try to spot it and see what it is. When a man becomes vague, like he can't even make plans. We already talked about it, right? Like he can't make plans with you, and like he's not looking forward to seeing you anymore. Like you're around the corner and he's just trying to avoid you. You come this way, he goes that way. Everything he do to be avoid you. You guys just hang out with like family and friends and stuff like that, and now he's trying to do it by himself. He's trying to give you that sign that, hey, I'm not interested in you. And I know a lot of times, ladies, you don't want to see facts, because the emotional side of you says that maybe I can change something. And again, we're talking about after you've had a conversation, right? And you're talking about what's going on, because that's what healthy relationships do. They talk about what's going on, and you just try to find, I'm just trying to give you some signs and some clues of what's going on, what may or may not be a problem. So for my younger audience, right, my 30 and 35 group, one of the big thing is, if you want to know if a man is not interested in you, no sex. The nights you're together, instead of getting like hot and heavy or whatever the case may be, starting, getting down for the get down, what I'm saying, he starts to fall asleep like a big old baby. Or when it's time to come visit you, he's asleep. When it's time to initiate, he has no desire to initiate anything with you. You start to think like, and when you got to start asking yourself, when was the last time we had sex? When was the last time like you hugged? When was the last time you kissed? Like, I ain't talking about the little, all right, see you later, babe. I ain't talking about that kiss. I'm talking about a full-fledged kiss. If you got to start asking yourself, when was the last time these things happened, and you live in the same city and you're around each other all the time, that's a man's clue that he's starting to lose interest in you. Because as a man, we all love sex. Some women love more than men, but for most men, we love sex. And if we ain't having sex with you, that's a sign. That's a big one. Because if he ain't getting it from someone else, it ain't going to be long before he does. Okay? But on the flip side, right? Another one of those signs is if you guys are only having sex. He could still be showing other signs of losing interest, but if the only thing you guys are doing is having sex, and he knows like with you he can satisfy that urge, and it doesn't mean anything like. And what I mean by you're only having sex, meaning like, hey, what are you doing? Nothing. What are you up to? You ought to come by. You come by, you guys have sex or whatever, then all of a sudden he finds a reason for you to go. Right? Or you only come by for that and then you gotta go. Or he has to go. Or he only comes by and then after you guys have sex, all of a sudden now he remembers something that he has to do. He's trying to tell you he ain't got no interest in you no more. This is literally the last thing you guys have that is connecting you guys together. And if you cut the sex off, if you really want to know the truth, cut the sex off. Cut the sex off. If that's all you're doing, cut the sex off. Hey, let's connect another way. If he puts forth the effort to try to connect with you in a different way or reconnect some of the other things, then there's still chance. There's still hope. He hasn't walked away. He hasn't lost interest. But if you cut the sex off, then all of a sudden you're in a sexless relationship and all of a sudden you're in a relationship by yourself. I'm just trying to give it to you blood raw. Because sometimes I know you don't want to put two and two together. And again, I'm not telling these things to use them as a game. I'm trying to answer some of the questions that you may be curious about and don't really know if it's the truth or not, right? But if that's all you're doing is having sex, then that might be your clue. Another one, if the relationship is coming real stagnant, right? If he's like, if he's still hanging around with you and still meeting, but it feels more like it's more friendly than it is romantic. You once had a lot of PDA, right? A lot of public displays of affection, and all of a sudden now, like you're always indoors or always, the things that you always did, but now everything seems more friendly. You know what I'm saying? You want to go hang out versus do you want to go to dinner? If you used to go to movies and dinner and now you're just going bowling, right? If you used to go out to the beach and walk around and enjoy the day with each other, and now your time is only a half hour, 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there, and yada yada yada, he's trying to tell you something. It might not be feeling that relationship anymore. For me, I try to tell people I'm an introvert, right? So even though a lot of these things that I'm telling you apply to not everybody, but to a lot of guys, introverts are different. Like I'm an introvert, right? I don't go a lot of places. I don't do a lot of things. That's just not how I'm built. I don't communicate a lot, right? I'm more of an indoor person. I like to put a movie on the TV. I like to cook dinner versus going out to dinner. I'm not a real outdoorsy person. If I do, I like to get on my bike and ride and just kind of do things in a more of a one-on-one setting. So I'm never going to set the false pretense up that, I want to do all of these things in the beginning and I want to do these. I don't want to do any of those things towards the end. That's just who I am. So you also have to understand who it is, that you're dating, because a lot of times, everybody's person, who they are as an individual, matters as to who they are as a person. Okay. So you have to be very mindful of the people that you're dating and dating correctly, of course, right? Asking these questions in the beginning so that you don't get caught up, right? So we again, we're not going to talk about a whole lot today. We're not going to drag it out. I just really want to give you ladies some clues as to find out if you're in a relationship where you're not sure about what's going on, like why is things changing, why is it doing this, why is it doing that. Everybody is built differently. So for me, I think the most evilest thing that people can do is think that all advice or information that they give someone is a one size fit all. It doesn't. You know what? Like one of the signs I told you about was excuses. He starts making excuses. Like I told you, there's a difference between reasons and excuses. Reasons can be factually checked, right? Excuses you can interpret. Okay. Another one was like the phone and the texting, right? Some guys don't like to text. In the beginning, we're texting with you because that's how you communicate. But if that's the only way you communicate, I don't want to talk that way to you. Pick up the phone, right? So that just because I'm not responding to your text message, I'm trying to force your hand to pick up the phone, right? Everybody can talk on the phone. Unless unless you're deaf and you can't talk, pick up the phone, right? So again, understand who you're dating, right? So don't assume that his reasons are excuses, right? And don't assume that because he's not picking up the phone, right? Being defensive and being rude. That was another one that we talked about. Everything that he say isn't defensive. Sometimes he may just be communicating with you and he's trying to force your hand to understand. Know who you are as an individual. Everything, if you take everything that somebody says to you that you don't like as being rude or whatever, maybe he's not being rude. Maybe you're the problem. I'm trying to give you both sides of the gate on this because a lot of times you have to understand who your audience is and who you're actually talking to. You got to be able to read the room, right? So you got to just be mindful of all those things. Him not asking you question doesn't necessarily mean that he's losing interest in you all the time. Maybe he's a person that likes to see how you're going to operate versus him asking how you're going to operate. That's a scary one for me because it can be misinterpreted. Because again, if you're just putting your best foot forward and I'm reading what you're doing, then I'm going to require you to do this all the time versus asking the question. So I like to ask questions, right? Just because he doesn't ask questions doesn't mean that he's not interested in having, he's losing interest in you. Being vague and stuff like that, all these things you got to understand when you put them all together. The biggest red flag is the excuses and the only sex part. Stop using sex as a weapon. If that's your relationship, be a part of that relationship. But if you're only having sex and you have nothing else, you can't go anywhere, you can't do anything, they don't want anything from you, they don't want this, they take, but they don't give anymore. Those are red flags. Excuses and sex only are the biggest red flags. Everything else can be a caution flag that you need to open your eyes, let your ears raise up, and come to an understanding about what's going on, why it's going on, okay? Like I said, this is an episode that I really didn't want to drag out. I just really wanted to have a conversation with everybody about what's going on, how it's going to go. But as a man, I don't speak for every man. I can only speak for myself. But I try to give you a general understanding that men generally don't want to hurt women. Real men generally don't want to hurt women. And I use the term men loosely, right? Because just because you have something between your legs don't make you a man. And just because you don't make you a woman, right? So you got to be very mindful of the word men. But most men don't want to hurt women. We don't want to be the cause of your heartache and pain. And a lot of times we do end up because of how we handle things, but I'm very guilty of it myself. I'm the person I would stay around a day too late versus walking away a day too early because I'd rather you walk away. That way, if it doesn't work, you're the reason why it didn't. Because I'm still trying until you decide you don't want to try anymore. So just be mindful of whoever it is that you're choosing to be in a relationship with. on what they're capable of and what you're capable of, because a lot of times we just don't know. So this is why dating correctly is very important. I don't do very well with people who only know how to be extroverts, because I don't want to do everything. I don't want to go everywhere. I don't want to be around a bunch of crowds. I don't want to be. But if I'm going to make a conscious decision to be in a relationship with a person who is truly an extrovert, I understand that there's an expiration date, and I'm probably going to tell you, there's expiration date on you or not, because who you are at your core is not who I am at my core, and I don't get what they say. Oil and water don't mix. You know what I'm saying? I can't think of how the expression goes, but two people that are incompatible, they may be attracted to each other, but there's a reason why they're not compatible. They only gonna mix for so long. You can only force things to work for so long, and eventually they don't lock up. The people that are supposed to be together, they can find a way to work their Rubik's Cube, and all of a sudden everything locks in and comes together. So if you have to continuously, a year, 6 months to a year, whatever the case may be, if you're still trying to force it, it may be time to walk away. Remember one thing when it comes to relationships: don't force it, don't fight it. Don't force yourself to stay, and don't fight yourself for leaving. Okay? Again, like always, this episode may not be for everybody. This episode may not be what's going on in your life, and that's fine. I'm glad you listened, and I thank you for that. But it may be for someone that you know that's going through something. Maybe you can't put it into words of what they're going through, or maybe you see the signs that that friend is being naive to. This is something that's coming from a man that doesn't speak for all men, but it's something that they may be able to benefit from. I truly hope I gave you something to listen to. I truly hope you gave you something to think about. You know where to catch me at on the dblpodcast.wordpress.com. You can catch me on Instagram. You can catch me on YouTube. You can catch me on all those social media platforms, the DBL Podcast. We'll do another Q&A soon, because everybody really got a kick out of that. But until next time, everybody, one love and peace out.